Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Vroom podcast. It is your host, Fernando Mercado. Happy to be back. We're here on a Friday. I know what you're thinking. Not a Wednesday or a Thursday again, Fern. Now, hear me out. Yesterday, Thursday, I actually recorded pretty much the entire episode. And then, right as I was ending, I then realized, my camera isn't recording. So I only have audio. Now, I could have just done an audio only, podcast, but I was like, no. We're going to do this the right way. And so we're back round 2 on a Friday. So, yeah. We're here for Hit the Apex. This is where I'm going to, break down last weekend's race. We're going to talk about what happened, why it happened, why I think it happened at least, and what I think about it. And overall, just let you know if the race was good or not, which is a very weird, subjective thing to talk about, but I have thoughts. So I'm going to share them with y'all. And thank you for listening. If you're hearing me on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I appreciate you. If you're watching this on YouTube, I also appreciate you for staring at my dumb face for however long you're staring at it. So thank you. I'm having fun doing this. So with that, let's get right into it. We had 3 races this weekend. We had the Formula One British Grand Prix. We had, for IndyCar, we had the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, and we also had the NASCAR Cup Series race, Chicago Street Race. All good races, all absolutely insanity things happening within. Lots of redemption, lots of not redemption, and we're gonna get into it. So, starting with our boys at Formula One, British GP at Silverstone. That was a fire race, honestly. I really enjoyed it. I think when a race is one of those where it's hard for you to do anything else because you're like, I have to look at the next lap because anything can happen. That's kind of how the race went down. So kind of coming into to last weekend, what was I looking at? What were kind of the storylines we were looking at coming in? We had some championship heat. Lando was just 15 points behind Oscar at the start of the weekend. And that, he's come off of his Austrian GP win after a terrible Canadian GP. And, we were able to see Lando kind of come back, get back in that headspace, that champion headspace that we know he has. And I think the question was, will Piastri kind of buck up again and be the leading McLaren? Or will Lando kind of finally be able to find the right sweet spot to get the advantage? And kind of going into qualifying, it did seem like Oscar had gotten his groove back. He qualified in front of Lando. So that wasn't a good place for him to be if he wanted to win the race. So yeah, I was kind of looking into that. I think also Hamilton showed a lot of promise with Ferrari. I think at the start of the weekend we were like, okay, Ferrari has been struggling a lot. I think the most with communication and strategy, honestly. I mean, the car is good sometimes, like okay sometimes, and sometimes it's very much not good. This was one of those weekends where it looked like, especially in practice, that the car was performing well. I mean, Lewis, I think, topped free practice 1 or 2, and he qualified, if I'm not mistaken, he qualified 4th, and he qualified in front of Leclerc, who was just generally this whole weekend was terrible for him. Certainly one that we want to forget if you're a Leclerc fan. And look, I'm like a quiet Ferrari fan in the sense that like I love Ferrari. I grew up loving the cars, but I'm not like wearing all the red and I can't do the Ferrari uniform. I can't commit to that. I'm so sorry. Uh, but I love Lewis and I love Charles. They're like, I have a lot of favorite drivers. I'm one of those people. But they are great. I love them for different reasons. But I think that obviously we all want to see Lewis succeed at Ferrari because Ferrari wants a good kind of net positive to come out of this season. They're not. I feel like they don't feel like they got that yet. And for Lewis, I mean, this is kind of like a dream come true. Some of the best drivers of all time have driven at Ferrari, and he's been a Mercedes boy for a while now. So we would hope that the switch would be good, and it has not been good at all. Actually, it's been terrible for Lewis, especially for a driver of Lewis's caliber. He's still performing incredible, obviously, as free practice showed. So, could Lewis get a podium? That would be fire. We would love to see Lewis get a podium. And then, as qualifying is happening, and we're like, oh, yeah, okay, Oscar's going to put it on pole again. This is how it's going to be. Max has spent the entire qualifying day complaining about the car, being like, I have no grip. It doesn't go where I want it to go. And he then just last second pulls out an incredible lap, puts it on pole, does a very Max thing, right? This is what he does. Ice in his veins. And then now that begs the question, right? Like, it's not like the Red Bull car is going to be better by, the race day, the next day. So is he going to be able to defend that position? Is he going to be able to win? Because obviously we don't really know how his contention for the championship is right now because at this time, because we're like, well, he just crashed out and that took out a bunch of points. So he's not really in it anymore. And then he puts it on pole. And then now we have to wonder, can Max do it again? Can he do the impossible and win the race with the crappy Red Bull? And on top of all that, the weather was going to suck. It was going to rain. And rain it did. And everyone was like, well, this is going to shake up exactly how everything's going to go. And shake it up it did. Getting into the race itself. I'm going to cough now. I'm so sorry. Hooray. Getting into the race. Piastri. We got to talk about the Piastri heartbreak. I think that there's a lot of opinions to go through. And I think that he kind of vindicated in his anger and his upsetness level? I would say so. I think if I'm Piastri and I'm doing something that I've done pretty much every race this season, and I'm doing something that I've done every kind of just like, I just did it. He said he had done it 3 times already that race. If I've done this, y me se pasa, or like it goes, I push a little too hard than I wanted to, and I get heavily penalized for it, I would be upset as well. Now, do I think it's his fault? Sort of. I think that he would do something that probably any of us who aren't race car drivers who can imagine ourselves being there. I think we can imagine ourselves that we would. I wouldn't say he like brake checked him. I would more so say he just tried to control the field. He's trying to make sure that every other car behind him is going slower, so that way he can get the jump faster. But he just hit it a little too hard, and Max noticed it. Max immediately saw that, and I doubt it was non-intentional. Just from the replay, it almost seemed as if he was accelerating a little bit and then kind of realized what happened and just kept going a little further just to push it enough to where the line is very gray and call him out and then get that penalty. And it was honestly one of those things where he was Piastri after the race wouldn't acknowledge Lando's win, and he said like, oh, I think that if I speak, I'm not going to talk because I'm going to get banned from Formula One or something. And I think I commend him. I really commend and respect him for choosing not to say anything really at all, even if it's mean, even if he's technically like pointing attention to his negative feelings by stating them, even if he's not saying anything explicit. I still commend him for how passionate these drivers are. He's always very cool and composed, regardless of the scenario. And if something happens, he's normally like, well, okay, it's fine, we'll come back to next weekend. But this felt very unfair, and so I get where he's coming from. I also think that obviously by now, he's probably had that moment where he's like, oh, you know what? Like, I think that I'm going to sneeze now. I'm so sorry. Wow, that was a strong sneeze, everybody. So sorry. Wow. But yeah, I think that he normally stays very cool. And I think by now he has realized, I maybe shouldn't. I know that was kind of a me mess up, right? Like, I messed that up, but it happens, and it's not anybody else. It's something that happens. Because I kind of feel like that's just what that scenario is chalked up to. Like, he got screwed, and we will move forward. Because at the end of the day, he still came in second, and he's still first in the championship. So, and I know you hate to see a teammate win, but at least, and I guess the other person in contention for you. So I was gonna say at least Lando won, but I guess that's actually a worse scenario for him. But I still think that he's gonna come in this next weekend and win the race if he doesn't have a moment like that, because he just has the pace in the car. I just think he has I don't know what he's doing. I really don't know what he's doing in that car other than magic at times in the best car in the field. So he's just making less mistakes. He just made a pretty big one there, I think. But I'm super happy for my boy Lando. I love to see a Lando win. I would love to see a Lando championship win. And I'm excited to keep seeing them duke it out, because I can see that right now McLaren, either of them could win. They don't have to prioritize either of them. Neither of them are performing at a place where you have to be worried about them. Other than Lando's one time that he like really DNF'd bad, and in Canada, I would be confident with those two drivers that they can race each other in a way that doesn't ruin their races. So I'm excited to see how far that battle is going to keep going as the season goes, because it's only going to get more intense. So that's going to be fire. Speaking of fire, Nico Hülkenberg, big fire. He got his first podium. I think it was something crazy like 239 races over 2 decades or something like that of races that he just has not gotten a podium, which sucks because he is an incredibly talented driver. And if he was in like a Mercedes or if he was in a Red Bull, a previous year's Red Bull, not this year's, but he would be performing as good as the top runners like George Russell, and Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in the season right now, because he is that talented. I think we're at like peak Nico Hülkenberg, like skill level, max potential. So I think that this podium only spells like, well, what, and I've been talking about this for a while, but what is Kick Sauber doing? What magic? Because their car has just improved significantly. They are the Williams that I thought Williams was going to be, but it's been them. They have improved so much that I think they're one of the best midfield teams now. And so that kind of begs the question of when they become Audi, what does that say for the rest of the paddock and the rest of the teams? I think that if they continue this upward trajectory, it's only going to really matter if this trajectory continues progressively. And it's not necessarily that they have to now win a race. I don't think that their car is at anywhere near that performance. They'd have to get so lucky for that to happen. However, I think that Nico's progression through the season and getting positive outcomes, and Gabriel Bortoleto just had a really good last race in Austria. I think that there's a world where they get another podium. There's a world where they continue to stay in the top 5, and that would mean good things for the future for their car next year. And I think that's really what they're setting right now as the foundation for next season. And they're showing great pace, and I'm really, really excited to kind of put my money on them, hopefully in the offseason, that they'll be the best midfield team, even giving money in the front runners when they're Audi. That's just my current thought looking at the progression of the season and where the car is now, and the consistency of getting positive outcomes in a race. I think that really matters. Some of the other car manufacturers have good races and bad races, and I think Sauber has been on a more upward trajectory than the other ones have. So this shows me then, though. And I'm just gonna also quickly, just because we have to mention it, during the week, Christian Horner got sacked, and now the team principal at Racing Bull is now the principal chief at Red Bull. I think that might have been the right call. It seems like it had been in motion for a minute. Like, this wasn't something that was super surprising to people who were in the know. I think it's surprising that it happened now. I thought it would have happened maybe in the off season. I had a feeling this might not be it might be his last season. And he's done great things for the team. And I don't know anything about I have no knowledge about any controversial things that he has done within that company and the things that he has been accused of. Obviously, we're going to work off of the assumption that those things are true, because if people are saying it, and multiple people are saying it, maybe, well, I don't know. There's a strong possibility. So if those things are true, working from that assumption, it's good that he is going to be given the time to reflect on the time that he's had at Red Bull and the successes, and hopefully see, now that he won't be on a team, that he'll be able to see the parts within himself and be happy, find joy. He's so stressed all the time. So yeah, I hope the best for the guy. He made wonders at that team and brought them multiple championships when they were incredibly crappy, when they used to be Sauber. I'm pretty sure Red Bull was what Sauber was back then, is now. Yeah, so on the flip side of that, though, I think it's very exciting that the principal of Racing Bull is now going to be the principal of Red Bull. I don't know. He's not going to be able to do anything with that car. That car is crap. However, the mindset within the team, I wonder if something changes within that paddock. I'm wondering what the environment is going to be like and what that does for the two drivers. Obviously, we don't really know what Max's future is right now, and I don't know if anyone does. I think he's going to drive no matter what, so I wouldn't care if I was him. But yeah, I'm excited to see what, over the next couple races towards the end of the season, what this does to Red Bull's infrastructure and the culture that they have, because it's very different from Racing Bulls. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun little shake-up within the paddock. And kind of closing out on our time with Formula One. What does this mean for the championship? Because that's kind of always what we're looking at. How does this race affect the overall scope of the season going into, and then how it affects going into next race? And I think that McLaren continuously, like Alex Palou in IndyCar that we'll talk about, has nothing to worry about. They're going to win the Manufacturers Championship, and most likely either driver is going to win the Driver Championship unless something disastrous happens. So to both drivers. So McLaren gets to have fun now. And it's a Lando-Oscar bout for the rest of the season, I think, if Lando can consistently show up to every race how he has been. If he continues to show up and be ready for the moments that Oscar makes mistakes, if he becomes more desperate, because there's a possibility that with the loss at Austria, the loss at just now at the British GP, there's a world, and especially how dramatic that loss was for him, right? There's a world where he becomes more desperate and acts out of anger or acts out of fear or insecurity, whereas Lando has had that moment already and will be ready for the moments in which Oscar makes mistakes. And I think that if he does that, if that's the scenario that happens, it's going to be a Lando win. But if Oscar stays and it can get back in that headspace, I'm gonna say it's gonna be an Oscar year. Unfortunately for Lando, fortunately for Oscar. So we'll see how the rest of that goes, and I think next race is going to be calling card for what the rest of the season looks like for these two drivers. So I'm looking forward to that. I think the battle for second and third place is pretty steep between Mercedes, Red Bull's trying to be a part of it, and Ferrari is trying to also be a part of it. I think that kick is going to be on the bottom level of that, still being in like the bottom level of the field. So I think that Ferrari needs to try and pull something really, really strong next race if they're going to show Mercedes that they want second. I think that's the reality of that scenario. So we'll see. I have no idea, honestly. It's a toss-up. All those drivers and teams have a good weekend and then a bad weekend because of so many different factors and strategic things. So, yeah, we shall see. I'm excited. Overall, I thought the British GP was a great race. I thought that it was fun. I thought that the battle between Oscar and Lando and the drama kept me always engaged. And the rain. I mean, the rain flipped everything, and that's also part of why Nico won, got his podium, and did his overtake on Lance Stroll. Was the rain was a big part of shaking up the entire field, and why Max wasn't even a part of the equation at the end there, because he spun out. So yeah, fun race, fun race. Moving on to IndyCar, a Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. It was also an awesome race. It was another one where, like, strategically you were interested in when everyone was going to be pitting and how that was going to affect the fuel, the tire degradation. There was just a lot of factors at play as to how the race was going to end, and so you were always wanting to pay attention to see how that was unfolding. I think I just basically described how watching cars race is. So hilarious. I'm a funny boy. Pre-race, the storylines we were watching, I was watching as we were going in. Palou, it is the Palou show. He just won again, and we're done thinking that he's not gonna win this championship. It's a done deal. I would say we're gonna just put that in that box and leave it there and just move on with our lives, because that's just the reality we need to live in now. And so, coming off of this win, can he pull a streak again? That was my question. Is he gonna build a streak again? Because if he does, it's over. on the other sides of that, Pato through the weekend just was not looking fast. Even though he won last year, he sucked at qualifying. But his car is fast. All those McLarens are fast. McLaren across the racing world is fast this season. So could he put the brakes on when he's in the race and win or get a podium at the very least? That was what I was interested to see, always because I want to see him do well, because I love him as a driver, as a personality. And then the Penske nightmare, guys. This Penske can't catch a break. You know, I don't think I can't remember exactly if they qualified well. I don't believe that they did. And they were having problems. And then Will Power just losing his mind at Kyle Kirkwood was one of my favorite and funniest moments of the weekend, because if you look at Kyle Kirkwood, I said Kyle Kirkwood, I'm so sorry, at Alex Palou, I'm thinking about a couple races ago where he also got upset at Kyle Kirkwood over the radio, but this time Will Power got upset and got out of the car and yelled at Alex Palou post their last practice before qualifying, essentially saying that he kind of slowed him down as he was coming out of the pits, as Will was coming through the track, and Palou would come out in front of him in the pits, and so he'd have to kind of slow down. And look, I'm a big believer in that. I don't have to say anything about the scenario or about you. All I have to do is point at your actions, and then we can all look at that and feel what we feel. And we all most likely will come to the same thought process, hopefully, if we just look at it plainly. And if you look at the video and you look at Will Power then yelling at Alex Palou, and Palou's reaction of just kind of just sitting there and laughing, and then you see the interview with Will Power where he's out of breath and he's just saying like, well, you know, he slowed me down and he's very upset. And then they cut to Alex Palou, who's watching the footage and then busting out laughing. I think it's funny, and I think if we look at it, we can be like, you know, should we have gotten that heated? Probably not. It's okay though. I get it. You know, we passionate. We in the race. We in the moment. We want to just be fast. Penske's been doing terrible. Will Power just wants to do and not lose his seat. So a little desperate maybe, and I get it. You know, it was just really funny, and a little cringy, but really funny. So what happened during the race? Did Alex Palou win? Surprisingly, no. He did not win that race. Instead, we got a Scott Dixon win. Did I see that coming? Absolutely not. Should I have seen it coming? I should have, because this is over 2 decades now of racing in which he's gotten a win every season. So fire for Scott Dixon. I mean, I love to see that dude win. He's a nice guy. He drives fast. He's one of the most experienced people out there, and his fuel saving is bar none the best on the field. So he killed it. And the reason why he won is because Palou made a crazy mistake, 2 of them, but the last one just coming out of into one of the last turns, I believe, was it turn 9? I don't know if that's one of the last turns, but he was coming into one of the turns, and I guess I don't know if he had too much speed going in or broke too late, but he spun a little out and clipped the gravel or the sand and lost lots of seconds as Scott Dixon is right on him, and he comes over. It's like this little hill. He comes over the hill and sees Palou on the left and just zooms past him. It was like Speed Racer, Rush movie type, stuff where you're like, oh, this is why I like racing. This is cool. And then the battle of Palou trying to get it back in the last 5 laps and just not being able to do it, and Scott Dixon winning the race. That's it. That you never know what's going to happen, especially in IndyCar. and I think that moment was like the wow moment of the weekend for me. Yeah, I would probably say so. I'd probably say that was the wow moment of the weekend for me. And yeah, watch that highlight. It was fire. So Scott Dixon wins. That means nothing for his championship run. He has none, but maybe he gets a second or third place. This makes a good possibility for that now. But Palou is still good. Now, Pato did not get a podium. However, he did go up to 5th from 15th. And I think that's a pretty big win in my book. I think that shows that A, the car has pace, B, that this was just maybe just not his weekend, in terms of qualifying, but it's not that he doesn't have the skill to possibly win a race. He does. I hope that he does. So good on you, Pato. You a standout driver for that this weekend. And look, Penske just can't catch a break. They really can't. Another terrible outing for them. Joseph Newgarden, which I don't believe it was like a personal error. I think it from hearing other people's thoughts and from what I could see, it seemed like the car was maybe the issue there. First lap, he spins out and is done. His race is done. He doesn't even get a shot to try. And so, but the car has pace, right? Because Scott McLaughlin, even though he falls into trouble most of the race, and as I believe 2 laps behind, he still put down the fastest lap of the race. So it's not that the car isn't fast. It's that something more fundamental is wrong with some of their cars. I think Will Power's car caught on fire. Car not supposed to be on fire. Not the last I checked. So what is going on? Fix it, bro. Your organization is crapping out, but your team is crapping out too, and all the drivers are losing their minds. So something at some point something's got to give. Most people predict that they'll figure it out by the end of the season, and given Penske's track record, they probably will. However, I don't know. This is just it's sad. It's kind of just sad to see. At first, it was like, oh yeah, now other drivers have an opportunity, but now it's just sad because you see all these incredible drivers just not performing at the level that they should be at. So yeah, hopefully Penske figures it out, man. I don't really, not for the team's sake, but for the driver's sake. Give them a car. Let them just give them a car that lives, survives, that finishes the race on the same lap as the other drivers. I think that that's the essential part of the race part. And look, because obviously we got to talk about the Santino Ferrucci drama with Connor Daly. And I love Connor Daly. And I maybe you fall in line with Daly more on things than I do with Ferrucci. However, Ferrucci is a great driver. Nobody should discredit that from him, that he has developed into a great driver this season. Especially, he's been performing well. He's been maximizing what he can get out of that car. And I certainly think, and I think he acknowledged it, that what he did to Connor was a mistake. He made a mistake. And had he just said that, that would have been fine. But he decided to then, call out Connor for doing something in the pit lane, which, if it happened, assuming that it happened, and that's valid, right? That doesn't excuse the top behavior. And even if other people have done it, and I think look, same thing about what I say about people's actions, kind of speaking for them, and I don't really have to say anything, right? Like, if you're passionate about something, and if you really want to be the best at what you do, and you are going and looking at the past, at history, and what has been successful and what success looks like for most people, and you look within yourself and you see yourself in that, and you're like, I want that success. I want to be the best driver and win this many championships and do this and that. And then you look at how you're driving, and if you see a disparity or a significant difference between how you're driving and how they're driving, and you're honest with yourself, that has to make you take a step back and be like, well, am I doing the right thing? Because how you drive, it may start from a place of like your personality and who you are as a person, because we all have our own driving styles and things, and I understand that, but there's a certain level of understanding about like what it means for me to be in the car next to all these other people being in cars next to me. And I don't know if you can look at yourself, look at that move and justify it by also saying that other people do things like that or have done it to you, and that it's just chalked up to racing. Because at the end of the day, you're just going to put other people in danger and yourself in danger. And I think that like it's not about this scenario, right? Because if you look at it, neither of them were going to die, you know? And it also wasn't like a moment where, you know, it ruined Daly's race, but there's a certain part of it with Santino that I agree that it's just like, this is racing. It happens. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm going to say some other crap, but this is racing. But it's just I say it because of the pattern and the general character of the driver. And that there is a pattern. And that if you know the facts of the history, that there is a pattern. And not like anyone's has to nail you to a cross for what you've done, especially when that's not who you are anymore. However, for your sake, for your success, for your career, for your safety, and for other people's safety, this perspective on driving may not serve you in the long run. And I think that's the kind of thought process and or my thoughts on it, essentially. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. And hopefully all of that made sense. Yeah, but he's a great driver, and I think he's gonna come back next race and probably do great. And yeah, I think for Connor, he got really upset. I think there's two ways you can look at a driver like Santino, right? You can look at Connor in that moment and be like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he's been driving respectfully, so he's going to drive with me respectfully, and when he doesn't, I'm going to get hurt and be upset. Or you can be like Alexander Rossi and be a cynic and then just be like, this guy is going to suck and be mean to me every time. I'm just not going to give him that room, or I'm going to pull back and not race him like that because I don't trust him. I don't believe that he's better. And I there's a certain aspect of like, well, if you assume good intentions and you got burned. That's kind of on you. You should have known. But should he be like that? No. You know, there's all kinds of and you know, when you try to play devil's advocate and try to see everyone and validate everyone's feelings while also trying to see like what's the truth of the matter here. That's the kind of person I am, where it's like I want to know, I want to actually see, well, what are the facts, what directly matters here, and how should we address it? What is the actual lesson here that needs to be learned? And I think the lesson is we're gonna move on now from all that and race the next weekend and just win. That's the best way to fix that scenario. Come back next weekend and be like, all right, bet I'm gonna show you. So I hope to see you top 5, Connor Daly. I hope to see you top 5. Love Speed Street, by the way. Much love Speed Street. now moving on to our last one. I feel like this has been one of my longer episodes. It's kind of fire. I love having things to talk about. Hopefully y'all are enjoying listening. We're going to talk about NASCAR's Chicago Street Race. It was an SVG weekend coming in from the Xfinity race, right? He puts it on pole in Xfinity. He wins the Xfinity race. SVG comes in, puts it on pole again for the Cup Series race. Is he going to win? We're like, most likely. And I'm just going to say one thing about SVG, which is also going to tie to Scott McLaughlin. SVG is a Supercars championship. I believe he is a 2-time Supercars champion. And I don't know if y'all watch Supercars. I don't watch it like live because I can't, because it's because money. And also it's a little harder to be able to watch like on this side of the world, but it's like not as accessible. However, it is incredible driving, and if you can watch some replays, they are insane because they're Australians and New Zealanders and stuff like that. So these people have a mental illness. You know, they have no care for their own lives, so for the lives of others. So they drive on the edge in cars that are similar in model to the cars that they're driving in NASCAR. They're driving Mustangs and I believe also Toyotas, and other makers, muscle cars, supercars. And so, you know, these NASCARs are insane. And that's why we saw another person from supercars who's been a very high performing driver in supercars who came to NASCAR. Will Brown, I believe is his name. SVG making that switch here. SVG coming in and winning a road course is from a different league and a one-off is not surprising to me, knowing that he's a Supercars champion. Even if it's not it's a very different car, he still understands how road courses work. And most NASCAR drivers, because they love ovals, and I know Denny Hamlin hates how the road courses, you know, and how many there are, but I love them. And I think that they challenge these drivers in a way that they normally don't have to think, which gets them out of their comfort zone, which then I think should surprise them. They should try and win these races, because I think that they'll find that a lot of those skill sets that they are, going to be able to take from road courses will make their oval races better. And SVG is getting better at ovals increasingly. And so it's not a surprise to me that he is coming in here dominating, and that he's the favorite, and that it's not surprising to me that he's the best on the field on a road course. So, I'm going to put respect on SVG's name. I'll just let y'all know. And a lot of drivers had different playoff implications. There's most of the drivers that we know of are, they're clinched playoffs, but, drivers like Bubba Wallace needed a positive, especially because he's versusing Alex Bowman for the in-season challenge. And Bowman wants to also make the playoffs, and you also got drivers like Buescher and Keselowski, and McDowell was looking good coming into this weekend too. He wanted to win. So I think that a lot of drivers had a lot to put on this race, especially Suarez. And I feel like I talked about Suarez a lot, and I love him as a driver, as a personality. Him losing his spot at Trackhouse was not surprising to me. I think I called it last episode or 2 episodes ago when I talked about it. So, he needed to come here and show a different team that he wouldn't be a waste on their lineup. So how did the race go? He won. SVG won, obviously. I mean, McDowell did give him a run for his money till his car crapped out on him. He won stage 1. That was fire. That was the first stage win for their team ever in the history of their team. That was crazy. But yeah, SVG was ready. I mean, he was right behind him the whole time. I don't see a world where SVG wouldn't have caught up, honestly. I think Michael McDowell would have trailed off as the race would have gone on, and SVG would have been there because he was on the right strategy. And I think that this puts him in contention for the championship. I think that that's the question coming out of the race. Can he win a championship? And I think that we still have to think about that. However, his abilities on ovals are getting better. And if he wins an oval, I say if he wins an oval on before the regular season ends, I think he's gonna top 3 up for a championship. Easy. Because then it's fair game. Then I think he can come and use that momentum. He's that kind of driver. But I don't know. Even if he won, like, if he won a road course in the playoffs, I don't know if that would be enough. So let's see. I think it would be super cool to see a supercar, a driver from outside of NASCAR come in and win a championship. I don't think that that's ever happened. That would be history, and he made history this weekend by being only the second driver to win from pole the whole weekend. Get pole, win Xfinity, and Cup Series. The only person who's done that before is Kyle Busch. So, fire, love that. Bubba struggled. It did not go well for him. Bubba v. Bowman. It did not. And it's sad because he's one of those drivers that, again, I really like and I love to watch do well, but he just had a terrible season, and it's just going to continue. Bowman had a better drive, and I think he's kind of put himself in a better spot. I think Bubba now is like right under the line or right on top of the line. It's not looking good for him. So I feel like next race is make or break for him. And for Suarez, how it ended for him, I mean, he was a no-show. It did not matter in the equation at all race. And at this point, I think he needs a Cup Series win to stay in Cup, or even Xfinity, honestly. I think if he doesn't win a race, he's not making a playoff. Unless he wins a race, and he needs that. Bar none, plain and simple. So the Xfinity race that he won in Mexico was emotional and beautiful and very nice. However, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Keep it for your feelings, but if you want to keep racing in NASCAR, you need a real win in the Cup Series. So, ponte las pilas, mijo, because it's a uphill climb for you, buddy. So, yeah, sad to see the Latino go, but I'm not gonna hold out any hope, but I'm gonna leave like 1 to 5% hope for him. Just don't want to be heartbroken, bro. Can't lose a Latino out here. So, power rankings across all series. Formula One, first place, I got Lando. Obviously, dream race, dream result for him. He was ready when the moment came to win the race. Love it for my boy Lando. Nico Hülkenberg, I have in my second place. He made history for himself. He deserves it. That's something that everyone across the field was joyous about. It was really honestly beautiful and heartwarming to see how happy everyone was for him. It, I think, speaks volumes about the relationships these people have cultivated within themselves, and no matter what the racing is. And yeah, it was beautiful sportsmanship to see. And any day that Nico has a positive outcome is a good day for us all. So yeah, so happy for him. And I put Pierre Gasly at number 3 because he made the best of being in the worst car. He had qualified well, and I think he kept his position. And, Colapinto is another guy who's just struggling this season, and I don't see him keeping his seat as of now. He needs some sort of miracle, honestly. So, we're kind of looking at Pierre. He's the consistent guy, and he's had a rough one the last couple of races. So to see him have a positive outcome was great. He performed really well, so I put him in my top 3. So that's my top 3 for F1. IndyCar, we got Scott Dixon. Who cares if you in your 50s, bro? Who cares? You be racing. He be racing. He's Sonny Hayes. He is Sonny Hayes in IndyCar. Killing it. Was perfect. Put a perfect race down. Christian Lundgaard, second place for me. Back on the podium. I think he was the guy who was supposed to challenge Pato in McLaren, and it just hasn't panned out for him the rest of the season. Kind of in that comparison, however, getting that podium, I think that was really good for him, and he had a strong weekend. So I put him at number 2. And at number 3, we had Pato O'Ward, obviously. Love the guy. He had the comeback of the weekend, I think. And, yeah, love to see him do well. NASCAR. To top it off, we had SVG making history, making it look easy. Wow. Can't believe I did that, but I did. And, yeah, SVG was fire, so he had to be top 1. There was no comparison, no one else up there with him. I'm going to give second spot to Ty Gibbs. He showed up. I believe he got second place. So, yeah, he is someone who's looking for that win. You know, he doesn't have a win. He's only in his second season in NASCAR, and he deserves it. He shows up at these road courses, and it's only a matter of time before he gets his first win. He's a really, really talented driver, and it's in these scenarios where you see someone like him succeed, and it's why I like road courses. So, yeah, gave my second spot to Ty Gibbs. Gave my third spot to Tyler Reddick. He was aggressive. He just didn't really have, the strategy, I believe, or the exact pace of the other cars, and he made a couple mistakes here and there, but he drove his heart out. I believe also for the podium. I think it was 1, 2, 3 for me in terms of the power rankings. So, yeah, I love to see Tyler Reddick also have a good outcome. He's a driver I really love and respect. So here's to Tyler Reddick, top 3. Now, kind of closing out the weekend, what am I looking forward to? What am I looking at? How are we ending? Can McLaren keep this momentum? Is Ferrari going to have a good outcome? Or Mercedes? Who's going to come on top, Lando, Oscar? Because that's really what we're looking at. So those are my thoughts. We're going to keep looking at Kick Sauber and seeing, what's up there. IndyCar. Palou is still going to win. No questions asked. However, what's the race for second and third look like? Because Kirkwood, Battle, Lundgaard, and Scott Dixon now. Colin Herta wants to get in the equation. Felix Rosenqvist wants to get in the equation. What's up, dog? What can we do? What's it going to look like? And can anyone else win some races? Because Palou will be second or third no matter what, unless something goes disastrous for him. So can we get some new winners? That's it. That's what I'm looking forward to. And then for NASCAR, SVG, can he win a championship? Can he win an oval? And are we going to get a new winner? Those are what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking forward to for our next weekend of racing. I will see you on our Into the Weekend section of our podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment. I want to hear from you guys. Would love to be able to engage those of you that are watching. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoy my soothing voice. Yeah. Appreciate y'all for hanging with me for an hour or so. Have a great rest of your weekend. See you later.